have not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
And welcome into Flagrant Howls. Kyle Tighe will join us shortly. Mackey is still out until Monday. Right now, Declan and Judd. And, boy, it's funny. You think you know the tempo of a playoff series until you don't know it. And that is definitely the case here tonight. Timberwolves 143, OKC 101. Absolutely crazy. 42-point win. This game was so out of hand that OKC pulled its starters late in the third quarter. They pulled SGA with 4-something left. Yeah. Julius Randle in early in the fourth. He was the last starter. He was pulled quickly. And as I tweeted, Dex, by really the last quarter of this game had the feel of a preseason game because it was a bunch of guys who were fighting for roster space. So again, I'll set you up with this. It is funny that we come away after game 2 and we're like, okay, this is not good. Okay, this is not good at all. It's going to be hard to win a game. And now going into game 4 on Monday night, we are singing a very different tune.
Yeah, I see the comments saying, Dex, you said they weren't going to win another game after they dropped games 1 and 2. I figured the only way that they could probably win this game is if they came out and had just a blitz, and they did. They were up 20 at the end of the first quarter. The lead was as high as 41 tonight. So they held their own, man. And I am surprised anyone. I am surprised by the way that happened. I have no shame in admitting that game there that I really didn't think that if even though that would have been maybe a formula that OKC would still be able to battle back. Judd, this was never close. This was never even close. We had Joe Ingles' chance at the end of the game, and come on, put in Joe Ingles for God's. I know you guys are in the arena on the TV broadcast. They showed Joe, and Joe's basically like waving, like, no, I don't want to go in. I don't want.
Yeah, Joe was fine. Joe was fine with not playing.
Yeah,
but it was crazy, and yeah, this game was. The only thing I tweeted was at halftime, I said, I want the Wolves to continue to play like they need to, because OKC's going to have a punch. And the Wolves need to continue to pummel them in the corner. And if they do, this game ends. And if I'm not mistaken, OKC came out an 11-2 run. Finch took a timeout. And out of that timeout, the Wolves destroyed them. They ended the night. And that's what I wanted. And that what we saw tonight is largely like, OKC, first of all, couldn't shoot straight for a large part of this game, and I get that's not going to continue. But there's nothing to stop continuing what we saw from the Wolves, which was a great performance. Defensively, absolutely swarming. Like, this was the formula for a bounce-back game. And now, certainly it's going to make a big difference in what happens in Game 4, but we have a series now. Yeah. But I loved coming out of the 11-2 response from OKC, which I think still cut the lead to 22 points. Like, that's how out of hand the game was. But I loved the Wolves' response. I thought it was great. And, boy, you had some performances tonight. Terrance Shannon Jr., who we could talk about, absolutely fantastic. Just an energizer bunny off the bench. Ant with his start, Julius with his game. I mean, a lot of guys, and actually in game 2 played well, so I shouldn't group him in, but a lot of guys who in OKC did not play well or simply did not play were fantastic. And credit too, this crowd was great tonight. I don't know how much it came through the television, but
it was loud.
This crowd from the start of this game was absolutely fantastic, and I do think that gave this team a boost coming back down by 2, coming off 2 really marginal to bad performances.
Yeah, I know Joe saying Dex is bleeping hammered throughout this. Actually, quite the opposite. I clocked a fever at 108 about an hour before tip-off. So,
oh wow,
I'm gonna get my dudes Kyle and Judd in here instead to also who I hope to God weren't hammered in the press row.
Can I show you something?
Yeah.
Okay. Talk about grinding my gears, Kyle. This was in the suite right behind me. The game ends.
You have
I
to
look
chug
back.
it. You have to chug it.
First of all, I don't know where it's been, but second of all, somebody poured this beer and then just left it. Like, this is offensive. This is a bad fan.
Have they heard about the tariffs? That's inexcusable. Speaking of performances, Dex, you sound like the Twins pitching staff in April. So if you want to hang out and just go away. Um, but I heard Judd saying it because I could hear him on here. I could hear him right over there. That first 4 minutes of the third quarter was it, right? Like 11-2 run for OKC. They dominate third quarters. I think Julius Randle is getting a standing ovation.
Yes, he's walking off.
Now, after everyone has left the arena. But Finch called that timeout, and that's something we get on Finch about all the time. Like, I just think he lets them play a little too much, and he called that timeout, reset them. They didn't come out with any energy. I think Judd got to 24, maybe,
22.
of that 31, 22. And then they boosted it right back. And as soon as they punched back, Michael Grady said during the game, he's like, keep throwing punches.
Yes.
As soon as they punched back, the game was over. Time of death, probably 6-minute mark of the third quarter. But it's one game. Not going to be like a wet blanket because there's so many good things to talk about. But I think for this team and those 15 guys to just know that they kind of belong, getting swept would have, I think, altered the course of how you talk about stuff in the summer.
Right.
At least for one night, a Saturday night here at Target Center, where, I mean, it was as loud, if not louder, than that whole Lakers series. When Terrance Shannon Jr. came in and came baseline and had that and one, that was as loud as any moment against the Lakers or the Warriors. So big performance from the young guys. And I think it all started Judd with Ant, right? Like, he set the tone early on in that first quarter. He said, I'm going to play real serious. Ended up with 30 points, but he was like, I'm going to set the tone and you're going to follow. And that's what they did.
His supporting cast, though, I mean, that's the key, was great. They were great. And it's funny, though, because, and I sort of talked about this after the loss, I think, in Game 2. We think we know a series until we don't. I always harken back to, I thought a really instructive one was the second round series a year ago against the Nuggets, right, Kyle? Because in that one, it's like, okay, the Wolves were up 2-0 on the road. Incredible. Is this going to be 5 games? Is this going to be a sweep? And it comes back here, and Denver punches back. So it's always funny when, and it shows too, I brought this up a couple of nights ago. Momentum within a game is real, right? Like, there's no question. Momentum in a series from game to game does not really exist unless you're a bad team or a really good team. So, I think the expectation that was, okay, Game 3, it's going to be, oh boy, they're in big trouble. I didn't know. But, and look, the margin of victory surprises me, but it does go to show you how much things can change and pivot quickly. And now, look, the Wolves have to win on Monday in Game 4, no question about it. But that being said, we now have what looks like it could be a series. And before tonight's game started, I think there were a lot of people saying, this is going to be really difficult.
What did we talk about, the three of us, on Thursday night? We said, can they play mad and smart, right? Like, that's a combination that when they do those two things are very lethal, but they've never really had that ability. So, Dex, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Oh, it's okay. For them to come out and play mad in the first half, mad in that first quarter, but also only have 10 turnovers, 4 of which were Ant, 3 of which were Nikhil, I think 2 of which were late. Kind of, Nikhil ran the garbage time a little bit before they brought all the subs in. So only 10 turnovers for a team. If you don't give OKC free possessions, especially live ball turnovers, it just makes it harder for them. But also, too, the guys, I think Terrance Shannon Jr. had more points tonight than Shea. Just an incredible performance all together. All 5 of those guys, whoever was out there on Shea, holding them to 4 for 13. Probably his worst performance, without looking this up, of the entire season.
Yeah, and he didn't, it was fun. It was funny. He definitely tried to flop a couple times early, and he didn't get the calls. Now, he got a couple, but nothing compared to like Game 1. And so it was very clear from the tone of things from the outset that not being on his home floor was going to make a difference. But let's talk about, I want to get because you're definitely a Timberwolves historian, Kyle, playoffs especially. Talk to me about your thoughts about what really feels like it might be be known as the Terrance Shannon Jr. game. Phil has been politicking for him to play all year long. He did play sometimes, didn't play in the first 2 games. But if I can make a comparison, it felt like he was the penicillin or antidote to what the Thunder do, because he plays a style that basically takes their style and says, okay, here you go. And He was incredibly effective, didn't look like a kid, and I thought gave his team and this entire building a massive spark with his time, especially in the second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, he was a first round draft pick, right? Late first round pick. He was the guy you kind of were looking at before they traded up last summer to get Rob Dillingham as well. Terrence really balled out in the summer league. Like, he had a couple dunks that were just like, I mean, he was, I think, fourth in college a year ago in free throw rate. Like, he could just put his head down and get to the rim. The problem was, and the scout on him was, in this team and in this environment, we need you to space. We need you to shoot the ball. So what's the first possession tonight? Terrence in the corner space, and what does he do? Bleep it. Goes right to the rim, proves us all wrong, and gets an and one. But he just has a different dynamic, Judd. Like, he kind of has some ant in him of getting the ball, getting out in transition. He loves contact. He has a running back mentality a little bit. And that's why on Thursday, when the three of us did this, it's like, we like Jalen Clark. And Jalen Clark plays a just eccentric defense, but they don't really need more defense. They need more offense in this series to keep up with OKC. I think that's why tonight you saw Terrence start the second quarter. I think Finch, maybe on purpose, maybe not, but waiting until the second quarter started and like he got his own announcement, like the fans went crazy. He's got some of that Nas Reed like fan love. So, and he just plays super hard. Like, I think as a fan of any team, you just want a guy that's going to die for loose balls, get hit in the face, and just keep going. So, a big night for him. It is the Terrence Shannon Jr. game. I would imagine he's doing podium downstairs. But also, if you're Finch, like, you can't put that back in the bottle. I mean, Terrence Shannon Jr. now has to play. I mean, his minutes tonight were a little skewed because a little garbage time there, but like 13 minutes is about 2 6-minute stints. That has to be the norm on game 4, game 5, whatever. Like, Terrence has to find 6 minutes to just give you a little jolt because his teammates feed off that. I mean, he's a rookie, Judd, but he's 24 years old. He's older than Ant.
So it comes down basically because we saw Jalen Clark get the minutes in game 2, didn't go well, and then we discussed after game 2 as well that if you're going to make a counterpunch here, like, right, and hey, shout out to Dante and Nas for actually hitting their shots and having a huge game because they were basically on the teeter-totter of, do we have to change up the entire bench and rotation? But Shannon basically steps in here and is just like a spark plug, man. Like, why hasn't this guy been playing more? Like, why wasn't he playing more in the regular season? And I know I'm asking this a little bit rhetorically, but, I mean, this is the Jalen Clark game. Do the Wolves not win this game without Jalen Clark?
Terrence Shannon Jr.
Or Terrence Shannon Jr., I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's Robitussin
That's
speaking.
the fever. That is the 100.8 fever.
You're
that's
powering
running
through. No one's questioning
Yeah.
you, Dex.
Thank you.
No one's questioning
Thank you.
But we put your arm around us. We got you. No, it is though. I mean, it is the Terrence Shannon Jr. game, and if you're a fan, I get it. Like, I always try to give the coaching staff. I mean, Dex, you think about this with the Twins or Judd with the Vikings. Like, they see so much more than we do. So we don't always know what's going on behind the scenes. But I will say, pregame, we were chopping it up with someone from the team, and he was like, Terrence has been killing these guys in practice these last couple of days. And then he was like, he also has the lowest body fat percentage of the team. Like, he is just a freak athlete that has embraced his role. I think like maybe like a guy like Rob has been frustrated this season not having more of a role on this team. Again, 8 starters, where do you fit him in? But Terrence has just seemed like he's just bided his time. I'll wait till he calls my number. And that was, 24-year-old rookie. But for him to wait and be patient and then come in and immediately impact the game, they probably win that game the way they played without Terrence, but they don't make a statement like that without Terrence. And I thought that was just his best NBA game of his short career, but that's why you get excited about what he could be long-term on this roster.
I think it's fair to question this just a bit, okay, on Finch. I think it's fair to question why Terrence didn't play like in game 2, like, because there was ample opportunity there. The thing with coaches, so the thing that we don't see is deficiencies, right? Like, all coaches, like, because Chris Finch is not a unique coach. Hockey, football, basketball, right? They don't play guys, and we're like, why don't you play him? He looks good, because to our eyes, they do look good. But there's always, defensive deficiencies, or there's something. I do think it's fair, though, to question why Terrance Shannon Jr. didn't get some run in game 2. I also think that it is fair, and it's a question I saw on Twitter as the game progressed tonight. I also think, Kyle, it's fair to ask, where was even a semblance of this in games 1 and 2? And I know that being home helped for sure. The building helped. And I'm not saying that the Wolves should have won both games, But I am saying that if you had, I mean, defensively, I thought that they were great. I thought the Wolves were great. I thought they swarmed them. They basically fed OKC a dose of what the Thunder do. So I do think it's a fair question for fans to say, why didn't we see more of a glimpse of this? And I think the response is, too, it was within spurts that the Wolves, I don't know if fell asleep is the right term, but I'll go back to game 2. You're down by 8 at the half, which is certainly not fatal, right? In the third quarter, you just get basically steamrolled. In the fourth, you play better, but it's too late. But the frustration about, like, why didn't you get a semblance of this a little bit more in the 2 games in OKC, I think is a fair thing.
I think we all 3 agree that OKC is really good. Like, Dex, that was your thing after Thursday. It's like, this team might just be a wagon. They were entering today, they were minus 340 at like sports books to win the title, not this series, to win the title. But I think the one difference tonight is, like, I don't think the Wolves lost game 1 or game 2 because of the officiating, although I thought the officiating was really bad. I just think there was other reasons OKC just played better. But Judd, you were sitting right by me tonight. Like, those first couple whistles that I think OKC was used to getting, they didn't get. And then Caruso had a couple, maybe they're ticky-tack, but he's slapping guys and, like, he's getting called for it. And that just kind of reset them. And once the Wolves knew 5-6 minutes in, I mean, they're already up 12, that we can play that style of basketball we played against Denver last year when they had that, again, the prison ball game when they just blew them out of the water. They realized early on, like, okay, we can play more physical. And that's how the rest of these playoffs in any other series has been officiated. And that's how the Wolves have been so frustrated. It's like, you watch Knicks Pacers, man, outside of some Brunson calls, they let them play. So if the Wolves are allowed to play and make you feel them, I think that's a complete tone changer. But also, and this is like the laziest analysis, but Judd hit it on the head. They hit some shots, right? Like, oh, Dante, first 2 threes, hits them. Nas hits a couple threes. There was a bad Ant possession where he was dribble, threw a grenade to Nas and he hit it in the slot. So I think some home cooking helped. I think being around families and just all that little stuff helps. But also, we can't not look at, is that Terrance down there getting shots up? That might be Terrance Shannon Jr. getting shots up. We're way up here, Dex.
I think it is.
Wait, 500.
Wait, you can see a guy.
Oh, yeah.
See that right there?
I can totally. I think that's him.
That's him. Yeah.
Is that God? Who is that? I don't even know who that is at this point.
It's a little bit grainy, but I think it is him. I think he's getting some shots up.
Dex, what was it like at home on ESPN and ABC?
Yeah.
Like, could you pick up on, because I don't know about Joe, but I thought this place was, again, as loud as I've ever seen it.
Did someone take that beer, Judd?
He's taking a beer right now. He's taking that beer. That poor beer was left here full. I am offended. That's terrible.
I love Judd's hands up as if he's like a convict. Like,
no one
it's not
should
mine.
do that. No one should do that to a beer. No, I'm defending the beer.
I know. I feel
Perfectly good beer in a suite. What are we doing?
Yeah, the broadcast. I mean, it was loud.
Yeah.
And they're coming out like right away and just basically blitzing them was I don't think the commentary was as bad as it was tonight. What I really noticed when this happened early, Shea goes up for a layup, probably gets pushed to the ground, right? Like, probably gets that call 90% of the time and doesn't happen, and they're kind of speechless too. You could definitely hear the crowd that was rocking, which was super cool to see. But I will say, as you know, the fever and the ice pack that was like on and off my head for the majority of this, when they came back out and in the second half, and it kind of got down to 21, 22. When you are having a fever and a Minnesota sports puckering moment happens, it's a life tripping experience. I don't condone using hallucinogenic drugs, but I do feel like that was what that was like trying to watch that second half until the 6-minute mark when they basically just buried them. I mean, put it on the tombstone. It was over by then.
Judd, what did you think of Ant's just demeanor in the first quarter?
Oh, I loved it. I also, though, in defense of Ant, he is, in my opinion, been taking way too much heat. He has been taking, it feels like he's being dumped on, and not necessarily by Wolves fans, but the national press, right? Like, this is what you're going to get from him. I mean, you look at these last 2 games, he is doing everything he possibly can. It's certainly, game 2 was not his fault. And tonight he came out, I loved it. He sets a tone. I mean, he's the captain, so he sets a tone. I also liked how Julius came out after being benched in the fourth quarter of game 2. I thought he came out, definitely played some bully ball, got away with a few. I love when he goes into guys' chests because and those could be called fouls. They weren't, to your point. So I really loved the resolve here because I mean this was more so than like a test of your basketball skills. I thought tonight was a test of your character if you're the Wolves, right? Like you're down by 2, you haven't played well. We all agree OKC is, the bee's knees, 68 wins. So the question is, how do you respond? And I thought tonight that the response was good. Now, conversely, boys, you're going to have to come out on Monday and do this again. Like this is not you feel good because if you're down 3-1 going into game 5, you're in huge trouble. So like this was just a start. It's why I thought that the third quarter tonight was so important because it's like, okay, it got to 22. That's not certainly the end of the world, but it's an 11-2 run. How do you respond? The response is a 20-4 run by the Wolves. So like this is just a step, but I love the tone Ant set. I love the tone the team set. And I felt like they really, really did figuratively punch back tonight.
Yeah, and I think a 42-point win is still, and maybe this is the dumbest take in the world, I think it's way more important for the Wolves than it is for OKC. I think that OKC team is still very well, kind of chill and coached well, that they're going to come out and they're going to be like, that's one game, whatever, just chalk it up to being on the road or whatever. But again, as we talked about on Thursday, OKC is just a different beast when they're on the road than when they're at home. And that home atmosphere, you're talking to people today, Judd, like it is SEC football. Like it is crazy there. So this was great. You avoid getting swept. You avoid kind of that embarrassment. You have a series now, but you have to bottle all of that up and continue to play Terrence and continue to get that, real serious demeanor from Ant. But it was also funny, Dex, you're talking about kind of puckering up pregame. You get to go in the locker room, chop it up with the guys. That was like the loosest locker room I could remember. I mean, Julius Randle, we informed him that Monday was a holiday. And then he laughed. He's like, I don't know, I had to work on a holiday. Yeah. So like those guys were they must have had a couple good days of practice. They must have known, as Julius was yelling in the third quarter after he hit one from Bloomington, like, we're home now. We're home now. I think those guys know that this is kind of an advantage for them as OKC being at whatever their arena is advantage for them. So one really good game led by their star, influenced by their bench, but 48 hours from now, you need that exact same level of intensity because OKC is not going to throw the white flag out in the third quarter. They're going to be like, hey, if we get this game, it's over.
So who does that come from to kind of calm everyone down? Probably Ant, right? Like who is the one that kind of leads that charge of, all right, we got boat raced in games 1 and 2. Guys, we're still in the Western Conference Finals. This series is not over. We overcame some deficits before. Is Ant probably the one that's leading that group to say, hey, let's hold our head high here. This is not going to be a problem in game 3 again?
I think it's Finch.
I would imagine. I was going to say, Judd, people don't want to hear this, but Finch came into the locker room and we're all hanging out there just chilling and talking to the players. And he's like, where's Mike? Because Mike Conley was, I don't know, doing something. And then we're like, sure. Oh, I think he's in the training room. And Finch is like, oh, I'm just glad he showed up for work today. And like, he had a really loose demeanor about him. And I think he does a lot of that too, of like, hey, those 2 games, he even kind of mentioned behind in the tunnel, Judd, like series doesn't really start till the home team loses. That's so cliche, but it is true, right? Like if you can do what you're supposed to do at home, all you got to do is steal one on the road. So whether it be Finch, whether it be Ant, whether it be Julius, not knowing what the calendar is, those guys weren't as pressured. And I think you saw that in their play because when they're pressured, or like against the Warriors, when it was like, oh my God, you can't lose to Golden State without a Steph, they played really tight. This team does not perform well when they play tight. And I thought they started the game angry, smart, but also very loose.
Yeah, and the thing about Finch, too, is I think one of his, and he's, a tactician, so he's very good. But I think his greatest strength is his ability to handle people. I think he's marvelous at it. I think he's loved. He's a crusty curmudgeon, but it works. But I also think he knows how to work guys. And I don't think that 0-2 is like the time to scream and yell and throw stuff. Now, here's the interesting thing, though, because this is a really intriguing thread to me for Monday's Game 4, okay? When you are down, this might sound crazy, but when you are down 2-rip, the pressure sort of comes off. Because it's like if you lose a third game, you're just done. You're probably done, right? So it's like OKC spent 2 games basically telling the Wolves and the entire league, this ain't a series. The Wolves come back and are like, okay, let's show them. But I think that actually alleviates pressure. So now it's 2-1. So I do think the mentality going into Game 4 is going to be really intriguing, because now the pressure sort of goes back up, in my opinion, on the Wolves, because it's a home game. Game 5 is there. And now this is, I mean, it looks like, for sure, especially with such a huge margin of victory, it looks like a series. So I am very curious to see the mental response in Game 4 when you're like, okay, if we win again, now it's 2-2 and it's on.
Yeah, and the one thing about OKC, and you saw this in games 1 and 2, you saw this the way they handled a kind of beaten up Grizzlies team when they swept them, is that they do kind of come to play every night. And the Wolves, for better or worse, and this is probably a bad reflection of Chris Finch and Ant, is like they don't always. They kind of wait sometimes to let their opponent set the tone of a certain fight on a given night. Tonight, that was completely different. They set the tone. And again, it those first 4 or 5 minutes on Monday night, you might know who wins the game based off those first 4 or 5 minutes, because you did dig yourself a hole by giving up those first 2 games. And again, you need to basically, you don't want to say it's a must-win game for either team. It's Game 4, but if OKC wins it and they have 2 more games at home, it might be cooked. But if the Wolves can make it 2-2 and say, all right, all the pressure is now on this really, really well-built, young, talented team, but they haven't really done it, right? Like they haven't made the finals before. They haven't really won anything either. So Monday, if you haven't bought tickets yet, show up, come downtown. Target's like, I think that night is going to be incredible. And again, it's a huge kind of testament to this fan base that, Judd, it was so loud in here, and everyone had a white shirt on. They were kind of doing the OKC thing minus the pregame prayer, and it was just an awesome experience for 2.5 hours at Target Center.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, these fans are so good. Well, like that's
So good.
the thing. That's the thing about the whole long-standing. It's not a basketball town, and I'm a hockey guy, but it's a great basketball town, and it's fantastic. And yeah, and these fans are fantastic. These fans are great. They've, how long have they been? And now it's back-to-back years, which is awesome. But how long have they been waiting for something like this? And so I'm happy. I'm happy that fans can, heck, for all of our major men's sports, I'm glad that they have this, because it was great. And yes, I don't know, it can't be quantified by a percentage, but there is no question in my mind that how the crowd was from the opening tip, heck, before the tip, before the game started, Kyle, this crowd impacted the feel. I think that they gave a certain amount of spunk to the Timberwolves, and I also think it's intimidating to play in a building that's this loud. And also, free throw merchant when SGA is at the line is one of the greatest. It's one of the greatest. I'm not saying here. I'm saying in any stadium for any harassing a player, but creatively. So it's not like SGA sucks, right? It is free throw merchant. Hats off. And I think I read it started here.
Yeah.
If that's true.
Yeah.
So that's great. Congratulations,
Also,
people.
Merchant's like not an easy word to spell. So like when you can chant it like that and everyone was in unison, like again, you're talking to, there's a lot of people here, by the way, in terms of like, you saw Kendrick Perkins, I'm in Shumpert, like Shams, there's a lot of people, you kind of like pick their brain a little bit and they'll be like, this is as loud as it gets. And we're traveling all over the country for these games. So I think the fan base has really leveled up. I think having last year, that one Western Conference final run kind of erased a lot of demons and allowed you to, again, kind of like the Wolves, play freer. So just a big, big night all around. And I don't know if you guys talked about it the first couple minutes, but I think just an amazing response from a guy like Julius Randle, who has been the perfect sidekick for Ant these whole playoffs, but he's probably had 1.5 stinkers. And he had a stinker in game 2. And that relationship with Finch, and Finch isn't perfect and Julius isn't perfect, but for Finch to just be like, you're not playing in the fourth quarter, while, his counterpart in New York, Karl Anthony Towns, was also benched. Like the ironic motions between those two guys all season long has been crazy. But for Finch to just say, I'm not playing your night, you don't have it. We talked, he was saying post game, like I talked to him, I said, hey, you're going to find it. Like you've been great these playoffs. And I thought Julius tonight, again, when Ant needed a break, Julius was just awesome, and he led with that physicality that you love, Judd. And then he also was just on a heater. I mean, he literally hit A3 from the teeth of the Wolves at half court. So really good performance. See what they do tomorrow. A lot of stuff, I think, to clean up still, because that third quarter, you can't have that again. Like, you can't breathe life into a team that was looking for some. So a lot of things. It wasn't a perfect game by any means. But, yeah, Terrance Shannon Jr., I thought Mike was really good. And then Jaden McDaniels, who's not a corner three-point shooter. I thought he might have had the biggest shot of the game, Judd. When OKC was making that run and they had him in the corner in front of the bench and Jaden hit it to kind of stem the tide a little bit, that's when they blew it back open. So all in all, 1 through 15, I think everyone but Bones Highland played tonight. Really good performance.
No, Joe didn't play.
Joe Ingles,
Ingles
man.
wanted to.
Oh,
there were a chance. And Dex, what did Joe do?
Yeah, he literally, they like flashed him on the bench in the broadcast, and he's like, "No, I don't want to play." I like Dr. Joe Ingles. Okay, I love that Joe Ingles always is the first guy out with the team trainer and maybe an assistant coach.
He's Rocco.
Kind of guy.
He's the Rocco of the Wolves.
Exactly.
Dashes out there.
But I think what is cool is, Target Center is obviously, we're in need of a new arena eventually. Concourses are small. The home court advantage here, though, is just insane. They're right on the court. And to Judd's point, a lot of Wolves fans endured some really bad basketball over basically decades. And for them to show up and yell free throw merchant and the Wolves also don't win this game without that crowd just absolutely rocking. So I do appreciate that, even though, let's be honest, we want a new arena eventually. The home court advantage is still a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I know we don't have our guy because Phil gets to have a birthday week. But there was the most Flagrant Howls statistic of all time, and maybe you know where I'm going with this. But this is courtesy of Dave McMenamin, friend of the show.
Yes.
I lost it here for a second. Play some music.
On Terrance Shannon?
Yes. Do you have that one?
I've got it right here. Yeah. So he scored.
Yes.
So he scored 9 points in the first half, which are the most by a Wolves rookie off the bench in a playoff game in franchise history. And here is the Flagrant Howls twist. Okay, boys? The previous record was 6 points off the bench against the Rockets, March 24th, 1997. I was 27 myself by then. Shane Heel held the record. That was 97 the first playoff appearance? I want to say that Houston was. I think that was the first playoff appearance that series was in franchise history, if I'm not mistaken.
Shout out to Shane Heel. Shout out to, you were 27? I was trying to do the math in my head.
Yeah, I was watching that game at the old Park Tavern in Bloomington. Mm-hmm.
So you're like 42 now. Okay, that's awesome. That was
good for me.
That was sometimes you get those stats and you're just like 9 points was the most. Like,
I know.
You get these stats and it's like someone makes a layup and you're like, that's the first layup from a rookie in 46 years for the Timberwolves. So Terrence Shannon Jr. broke a lot of records tonight. Shane Heel, friend of the show. But again, I just kind of go back to Judd on Monday night. You're probably, if you look at the box score, it was just the most balanced box score. It's like, who did you think had a really great game outside of Ant? Like, Mike only had 6 points, Rudy only had 7 and 7. So it wasn't like one outlier. And I think if you're Finch, you can that's the message tomorrow. Is like, hey, I don't think outside of maybe Ant in that first quarter, we had those 2 steals for breakaway dunks. No one really played out of their mind, other than obviously Terrence. So we can get that type of performance. I thought Nas was really good off the bench. Then he only played 19 minutes, but he did lead the team. I think, or he tied with Ant, I think, with the rebounds. Dante hit those first couple threes. They didn't turn the ball over. That was huge. Outside of I think 3 guys outside of garbage time had turnovers. And Julius was not one of them. Rudy was not one of them. So really good performance. You punched back. And now I would expect the best Game 4 performance from an OKC team that is not really used to losing. They've lost 14 games all regular season, and they're sure as hell not used to getting, kind of spanked like that on a national TV setting. So expect the best from a team that is still a very heavy favorite to win the title.
Kyle, great stuff, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, guys.
From Opta Stats, I saw this. The Timberwolves beat the Thunder by 42 tonight, Judd, which was the largest margin of victory in NBA history, regular season or playoffs, against a team that won 65 games in the regular season. So,
wow.
I think Bill Simmons did that video after game 2 of, we are on a historic watch with, the 96 Bulls and the Warriors team that won 71. We're on a historic watch with that Thunder team who are bulldozing their way. The Thunder have never been beaten like that, and no team has ever been beaten like that it was a 65-plus win team.
How much do you think that bugs them? Because I can tell you, right? Them. See, I think it will, I think it will bug them to the point of providing a spark. But it's also a playoff series where weird things take place. So I do expect them to come back with the same type of fire and anger that the Timberwolves had tonight. And they're a well-coached team. So I think that this is going to be, again, I think Monday is going to be so intriguing because I certainly don't expect this, but I do expect that the Wolves have shown that they can play really well. Now, the Thunder is not going to shoot as poorly as they did tonight. Wolves' defense played great, but I mean, the Thunder at one point in time looked like they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, aside from a couple guys. So I'm sure it bugs them, but I also think it's going to provide them with the type of spark that the Wolves had. And the question is, can the Wolves maintain what they did tonight? If both teams do this, I think Game 4 could be fantastic. Like, I think, because I would like to see, do you know what I'd like to see? And I know Wolves fans aren't going to agree with me. I would like to see a close game. Like, I would like to see a competitive game for the entire game. Breaking news. So we're due for one of those. I could see it being Monday, but if that's the case, I also like the Wolves' chances. That fair?
Yeah. Right now on the betting line, so the Wolves are actually 3.5-point dogs going into Game 4. So the Thunder are still favorites to bounce back and win Game 4. So the Wolves are dogs, home dogs. But yeah, I expect a more competitive game. They had SGA mic'd up tonight on the ESPN broadcast, and he kind of said on the bench near the probably end of the third or beginning of the fourth that, look, we can drop this game and it's all right. So I do think, as much as they're probably like in the middle of it during that run of, oh man, we're in uncharted territory here. And that team who hasn't, that group hasn't really been to the finals before. I know Caruso has. The fact that SGA also says, you know what, we can flush this. Like, we flush this, we come back, and if they win, then they just got to win one more of the next three. So
right.
So yeah, I do expect a more competitive game in Game 4.
SGA tonight, 4-13 from the field, 2-5 from 3, 14 points. He played 28 minutes tonight. He got, again, taken out with 4 something left in the third quarter. I will say this, the starters on both teams, well rested. I mean, they basically sat out. Well, heck, the Thunder pulled their starters late in the third quarter. The Wolves pulled Julius, who was the last guy left, early in the fourth. So, yeah, I think now we have a series, but I would expect, like at some point in time, I would expect that we're going to get 1 or 2 close games because it does seem odd that we've gone Game 1 OKC by a lot.
Yep.
Game 2 just felt, once the third quarter was done, like a rout, like tonight felt, and then this game, the Wolves fell down. They fell down by 6 or 8 to start the game. Yeah. OKC scored the first 8 points, and then the Wolves came back, and it was a rout from there. So a good night for the Wolves. Game 4 now, if you can go back to OKC for Game 5, and if you can do that at 2-2, I think we're going to feel like you at least have a chance to steal a game, which you're going to have to do to win the series. But I think if you're a Wolves fan, you're going to rest a lot easier tonight having seen this than you probably were going into this game when I honestly didn't know what to expect. A Wolves win does not shock me. A 42-point win definitely shocks me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it'll probably be a much closer game. And we'll see if TSJ gets another. I assume he will. He'll check in.
And where the minutes going to come from there?
Yeah,
they're going to have to come from somebody.
Yep, that's the thing. I think he'll check in, but how long of a leash does he get? And he might not be at fault, but if the Thunder go on a crazy run, do they pull the plug on that and put someone else in?
That's a great point. Great point. That's all I got. That's all I got, folks. Thank you. Yeah, get some rest.
I'm gonna go get some. If Theraflu is a presenting sponsor of Flagrant Howls, I can make
your
that
face
happen.
is a little bit red. It's not too bad, but it's definitely a tinge of red.
You know what's the worst is it feels like the monkey with clapping on hat. It feels like someone is literally just squeezing my head like a gusher right now.
That's the vice. It feels like your head, like your temples are in a vice. That is the worst feeling.
Yeah. So I'm going to rest up, but Mackie will be back. Game 4 from Target Center. Judd will be there. I think Kyle will be there. Mackie will be there.
Kyle never leaves here if the Wolves
Kyle
are
actually
playing.
sleeps there. Kyle actually sleeps
Beyond that, he's never in the state.
Yep, he sleeps in the West Coast on off days and at Target Center on days. So, hey, appreciate you guys. We had over 3,000 people watching this. If you didn't already, hit that like button and subscribe button here. And if you're consuming this again, thank you so much. This is Flagrant Howls, your favorite Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.